And as I said earlier, please leave your questions in the chat box and they'll be addressed. There will be also opportunity for question and answer. And so please, let's listen attentively as we jot down our points and also questions. When the opportune time comes, you'll be given the opportunity. We have on the screen our social media handles as the Institute of Directors Ghana. We are available on YouTube, Facebook, on LinkedIn. We are on X, formerly Twitter. We are on Instagram, and we are also on Telegram. And our website is www.iodghana.org. If you have any challenge and you may want assistance, you can call the Secretariat on 030-273-2269. Or alternatively, you can call 024-071-4798. And you can also send an email to info@iodghana.org. Without wasting much time, I'll invite the president of the Institute in the person of Mrs. Mary Asare-Yeboah to give us the opening remarks. But before then, I'll give you a brief outline of what we are looking to do today. So after the opening remarks, we'll introduce a speaker, and then he will deliver a 40-minute presentation to us, after which we'll have a 10-minute question and answer session, and then the closing remarks. Then at 2 p.m., we will all exit the call at the end. Thank you very much. So I'll invite Mrs. Mary Asare-Yeboah to give us the opening remarks. She's President and Chair of the Governing Council of the Institute of Directors Ghana.
Thank you, Sarah. And good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I would like to acknowledge all members of council, the vice president, both current and past governing council members, and to you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I acknowledge your presence. This afternoon, we have the opportunity to learn more about artificial intelligence, AI for short. The very interesting subject to be presented by Dr. Kwame Ahiabenu is on strategic AI leadership, equipping boards for responsible and profitable AI adoption.
Yeah, and I said I should now realize.
It is an engaging subject for which I am certain we will gain a great deal of insight on the responsible and profitable adoption of AI. I therefore invite all of us to stay fully present as this webinar is delivered. Our CEO, Dr. Alfred Breimer, will now formally introduce the speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President and Chair of the Governing Council. As you rightly said, as part of your opening remarks, this is an extremely important area. It is emerging and it is shaping and reshaping the way business is done and business will be done into the future. And for us operating in the governance space, this is fast becoming one of the key tools that we should be interested in, that we should capacitate our members on, so they at least will not be left behind as far as the technology train is concerned. So as an institute, we looked and looked and looked and found, as Madam President said, one of the finest in this area, who is in the presence of Kwame Ahiabenu. He holds a PhD and he is a member of our institute. And he is highly respected as far as technology innovation is concerned. He is indeed an expert. He is also an AI strategist and a thought leader in artificial intelligence, fintech, and business strategy. His career spans over 20 years across Africa and internationally. And therefore, the experience that he is going to, as it were, offload to us as members of the Institute is clearly cherished. As a member of the global expansion team of the AI Collective, Dr. Hiabenu was instrumental in creating and launching the collective's first African chapter in Ghana, establishing a vital platform for responsible, inclusive, and transformative AI adoption across the continent. He is a senior consultant at Knowledge Innovations, where he leads efforts to assist firms with AI readiness assessments, deliver capacity building training, one of which is going to take place now, and develop and deploy customized AI solutions for innovations in both the business and public sectors. His expertise includes guiding boardrooms, nonprofits, and corporate teams through digital transformation and responsible AI adoption. In addition, Dr. Ahiebenu currently serves as a trainer for UNESCO, where he delivers capacity building in AI to public sector workers, empowering institutions to leverage artificial intelligence for societal benefit, operational efficiency, and digital growth. His career spans leadership in fintech, digital finance, and strategic advisory roles, with a deep commitment to fostering sustainable technology ecosystems and responsible AI adoption for Africa's development. Distinguished participants, please join me to welcome one of our finest, Dr. Kwame Hiabenu, PhD member Institute of Directors, Ghana, to take us through this webinar. Thank you and welcome, my brother Kwame. You have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. May I ask for the polls to be shared? So basically, I want us to go through a series of questions. Okay. So they are on your screen now. If you can just provide answers quickly by clicking on the relevant answers. So without much ado, I want to start by saying a very big thank you to our president, Mrs. Mary Yeboah, for her kind introduction, and also for our CEO, Dr. Brahima, for also the very interesting introduction. I appreciate it as much. As we say in Ghana, all protocol duly observed. I know that you are all very busy people, so we are very much grateful that you are taking time off your busy schedule to join us today for this important session. It's important to emphasize that this is just 1 hour or less than 1 hour session. So the goal is to provide food for thought. For those of us on the AI journey, this will reinforce some of the path of travel. And those starting on this journey, it can give us some pointers about how we can leverage AI for profitability and growth. And for our friends who are sitting on the fence, hopefully this session will provide you some pointers so that you can join us on the AI super highway. As a note of disclaimer, we recognize that some of you on this call may be experts in this area already, while others are taking baby steps. So I've structured this presentation to give general strategic directions so that as directors, you have a bird-eye view about the areas that you can provide strategic leadership in AI. So I have basically 5 areas that we are going to look at. I'll introduce the subjects. We want to look at the AI and its business value. Then we'll focus on role of directors in AI adoption, how we can integrate AI into our corporate strategy. And I think finance is important. Those of us on active boards, there's always the issue about resources, and we're going to take a look at that. The first bit is to figure out how to define AI. And the point I want to make here is that it's very difficult to have a universal definition of AI, largely because the subject matter is fast evolving. So if you stick to one definition, it may be outdated, it may not be relevant because of the nature of the beast, so to speak. But we can operationally define it as human intelligence in machines, in the sense that what are the tasks or activities that can be performed by machines that require human intelligence. And somebody was saying also human stupidity. So if you are supposed to summarize AI, you want to look at it as the interaction between machines and humans at the level of intelligence. Now, it's important for me to point this out that AI is just part and parcel of the bigger fourth industrial revolutionary tools, which we call Industry 4.0. So at the level of board, we cannot hold discussion on AI and just keep it to ChatGPT or any generative AI, because AI or the whole spectrum of emerging technologies is bigger. So we have Internet of Things, robotics, big data, and even 3D printing. So I just want to draw your attention to the fact that AI is quite a big area when you look at the other tools that come to play. Now, it's important to recognize the fact that AI did not start today. Personally, I started work with AI in 2012 when we used AI to automate social media monitoring. And that's over 13 years ago. And the subject matter actually was created in 1956. Some of us were not born around that period, but I know some people were. So it's important that as directors, we recognize that AI is not something which just happened now, but it has taken a path, or it's on a journey. And what has happened recently is that we have recent rapid advancement, and that have made AI mainstream. And this is radically transforming our society. One concept I want to bring on the table is, I guess everybody have heard about it, garbage in, garbage out, which connotes the notion that when you are using technological tools, such as a computer system, the garbage you put in terms of input will generate output in sense of garbage. So if you have poor quality data, you will end up with poor quality output. But I want to point out something which is quite profound or very important when it comes to AI. AI can actually help when even you put in garbage in to generate valuable insights, largely because of its collective wisdom ability. Let me explain. On this call now, I think we have over 100 directors with varied experience. But if you look at AI and you interact with it, it means that you have the collective wisdom over 1 million other directors with different level of experiences. So I want us to draw our mind to the fact that to use AI, you don't need to have perfect information. And if you use it appropriately, you can even have so-called garbage in, and it may generate insight rather than garbage out. Now, what are the types of AI that we have? We basically have two types of AI. The first one is narrow AI, which is more narrow in the sense that it's specialized in single tasks. Then we have general AI that takes human level intelligence in the task that it performs. We are now seeing what the so-called super AI. I must caution that some people claim it exists, but from our level as experts, we believe that the so-called super AI is just evolving. And if it occurs, it's going to mean that machines will have the ability or the capacity of human intelligence, which will exceed the one of a human across all domains. Now, one latest evolution in this space is what we call agentic AI, which represents a very significant evolution in the sense that AI is usually human telling the machine to do this or that. But with agentic AI, this time an agent is behaving on its own without human intervention to undertake a certain activity. An example, you could have this agent that will go into your savings account to take advantage of any investment opportunity without human action. Second, it can buy stocks for you without you intervening in terms that it monitors market conditions, analyze data trends, and act. So if you remember principal-agent relationship, this agentic AI is performing that role. And as directors, a lot of us are serving as agents of our principals, which are the owners of what have you. And in the same way, agentic AI does that on its own. And that's where some people suggest that we are approaching super AI because agents are performing tasks without human intelligence. Now, I think in terms of its application, everybody on this call will know that we have a lot of application today in healthcare, finance, and all that. So I'll not spend too much time on this. Now, the fundamental question is that why as board members, we need to get onto this issue about AI. The first thing is that we are responsible for strategic oversight. And AI is now becoming a key strategic element in any business or nonprofit or government. Therefore, in exercising that oversight, we have to ensure responsibility, ethical use, manage risk, and ensure that we align our AI initiatives with our business goals or vision. Importantly, and this is very critical, depending on what industry you sit on the board, compliance is quite important. So there's a lot of evolution in terms of regulation. Currently, in some parts of the world, if you're a medical doctor, you are not allowed to use AI in decision making. Elsewhere, when you do that, you have to report. So the key issue is that we are now, as boards, having a lot of weight placed on our shoulders, largely because of what AI is doing to the business. And if we don't play oversight, it's going to create problems for us in terms of the work we do as boards. Further, we have to look at the issue about adoption. And for me, the key issue is that we need to align our strategic direction as a business with AI in a more robust manner. So what I'm suggesting is that we should not say that this AI, so we're jumping on it. We need to ensure that there is straight alignment between our strategic direction, business goal, and vision in terms of AI. Now, we need to focus on responsible AI. And what is responsible AI? Responsible AI connotes the fact that we focus on AI, which is done in a manner that will not bring about bias. And I mentioned risk. It will not lead to issues that will create compliance challenges for us. There is also regulation, and also the business reputation is quite important. And to do this, we have to focus on how we create mechanisms or frameworks through our governance framework about how we monitor AI implementation, its usage, its impact, not only on our organization, but it's also very important that we focus on the industry that we operate or play in. And I keep on saying resources are very fundamental in this discussion. How do we ensure that, and everybody will tell you that we don't have unlimited resources. So how do we ensure that we can invest in some of these AI tools today? Remember, some of this investment will not have immediate returns, especially when it comes to the bread and butter issues. So now the question is that how do you align resources to invest in the future. And sometimes the benefits will take some time before they will come to fruition. And it's called to ensure that we build literacy within the board. And we are hoping that this workshop will help some of us who have not tackled AI literacy to start looking at it. It's important to emphasize that we are not suggesting that directors become AI experts overnight, but we are talking about strengthening what we do. So if you are part of the finance committee, what is the implication of that for the work that we do in providing oversight? So we want to focus on that functional literacy to enable us do the work we do as members of boards. Now it's critical, as I keep on saying, that we have to look at alignment of AI initiative for our business goal and vision. We need to strengthen the governance and risk oversight. I'm afraid the governance and risk oversight most of our organizations have, when you look at the assessment that we have been doing, it's not fit for purpose when it comes to the issue about AI because of its complexity. And I want to emphasize that a lot of people try to simplify some of this issue, but the issue about AI is quite complex. So we have to look at how we involve new governance and risk mechanism to play effective oversight. We have to invest in talent and capabilities. So within our organization, what talents do we have? Are we at par with industry? Are we industry leaders and all that? More importantly, AI relies a lot on data. Therefore, it's imperative that we look at data as strategic assets of the organization. So if you look at this, any investment, any form of interaction have to focus on how we can leverage this because they're a resource. And it's also very important that as directors, we monitor emerging trends and innovation in the area as its impact on our businesses. So how are boards making use of AI today? A lot of boards are using AI for strategic decision making. So if there is an issue at stake, the AI is used to support the decision making. So, for example, we are looking at investment decision, the finance committee is working. They can use it in modeling or doing scenario and all that. So a lot of boards are using some of these tools in aiding the board strategic decision making at the global level. Other boards are using it for meeting management. As you are aware, a lot of us are very busy and sometimes scheduling meetings can be problematic. There are AI tools that can allow you to do those management of schedules so we can fit meetings within the framework of everybody's diary, so to speak. There is also the growing use of AI, for example, online tools. If the board meeting took place on Zoom, you can transcribe the meeting so I can generate meetings and the minutes of the meetings and also the decision. But I must warn that you have to look at the fact that if you use some of these public AI tools, there is a risk that your data will be made publicly available. So I always suggest that when you're using all this tool, make sure you read the terms and conditions to enable you access if your privacy, secrecy, and things to do about confidentiality are all being met. And more importantly, also ensure that like in-camera meetings, you don't record them and all that using the AI tools if the data or the content is sensitive. There is also the issue about corporate governance and the use of AI. Now, I think this part of the presentation is important because as directors, one of the key things that we are obligated to do is to ask questions. So the first question you want to ask if this issue came on the agenda is that how and if the organization is making use of AI. Second, what are the risks or what are the responsibilities? It's important to note that in doing this assessment or asking this question, we need to recognize that some of the entities may be using AI, but it's not official. So you want to assess that the use of AI is not only the mainstream in the organizational operation, but also the ones that happen offline. And your interest is about the risk and responsibility. Again, how ready is the organization ready for AI development? Deployment becomes very important. It's important not to just go and deploy AI. You need to have your systems in place and also governance. And that's where we come in. So if we don't have those governance systems in place, we cannot ensure that we can have proper oversight in terms of operational geographical. If your entity is maybe international, some regulations or some provisions in Ghana may not be applicable in another market. So it's important that you look at the geographical implication of the use of AI in terms of your governance oversight. Regulation is important. Some industries like finance or health are heavily regulated than others. So it's important to look at all those aspects. And any other risk should be framed within the governance framework. Also, you need to assess how processes and also systems are used to test for AI efficiency, accuracy, and fairness. Largely because AI is not perfect. So if decisions are being taken using AI, it's our duty as directors to ask, is this efficient? Is it accurate? Is it fair? Fair in the sense that, for example, I'll give an example related to finance. If you're using AI to make decisions in terms of credit provision or loan provision, are you ensuring that that algorithm you're using is fair? So as some group of people, like maybe women or some physically challenged or disabled people are being left out because of the use of the algorithm. And we all have to ensure that we stay abreast with any regulation within our area without needing technical expertise. So it's important to find a mechanism to enable us to do this effectively. More questions again. For companies, especially outside, and I think also in Ghana, if you are publicly listed, it has different regulatory implications. So we want to have compliance and disclosure obligations all aligned in this governance structure. Number two, risk. How do you identify risk? And for a lot of people, the AI is a bit abstract, so they don't recognize that there are risks. But I can tell you there's a lot of risk in the use of AI. And when we come to the slide on risk, I will share some of that. So it's important that we have a mechanism to mitigate this risk, like we do for any other risk within the business or the organization. We have the appropriate staff, we have the tools, and we have the controls. And that's quite important. Bias and unethical decisions are bound to happen when you use AI tools. So is your organization able to detect and mitigate those risks? Obviously, we are not at the operational level, so we are not going to be doing this, but we want to ask the questions or want to ensure that we have the framework in place that allow us to do this very effectively as we embark on the AI journey. It's also very important to look at the competition. What's the competition doing? So I always tell board members that, are you the industry leader, or you are in between, or you are just following? So it's important that any strategy you're going to adopt in AI aligns with your industry, directly and indirectly. This will ensure that the company is competitive. And if you remember your business school, the first mover advantage, you can have that. And it's all about how you can do the assessment and make sure that your business goals and visions align. One critical element is about job and workforce implication. Unfortunately, if you like it or not, AI is now replacing some jobs. And the speed that is happening is going to be even more faster. So the question is that within your strategy, are you using AI as a mechanism to have savings when it comes to human capital? What goals do you have in mind in terms of ensuring that your workforce is adopting some changes so that they're empowered to deal with AI? And most of the time, if you don't do that, at the end of the day, your whole human capital strategy may be thrown out of gear because you are not ready. So as board members, it's fundamental that we ask that question. How do we ensure that we deal with the issue about human capital? Are we going to retain the staff in the organization because of all these changes? What investment are we put in so that we can take advantage of automation in a more robust manner? Now the risk. So this slide is very important. The first risk, which we have seen from our interaction with a lot of boards, is that there is lack of AI literacy. So there's a lot of misinformed oversight and poor decision making when it comes to AI. And this is very important. So largely because some of this issue is under our radar. So we are not looking at this quite clearly. So it's quite important that after this call, the next board meeting, you want to ask yourself this question. And sometimes these things are quite invisible. You wake up one day, it has happened. So it's important that we look at AI literacy. And if you don't have the literacy, your oversight and your decision-making process, either you're not taking advantage of the AI tools or you are making poor decisions. So it's a very fundamental risk when it comes to AI adoption. The next one is that there's a lot of legal and regulatory liabilities when it comes to the adoption of AI. Again, as I said, this presentation is quite general. So depending on the industry that you operate in, if you're working in an industry which is heavily regulated, finance or health, there is a lot of issues about compliance failure. Then it means that your lack of oversight will lead the organization to be exposed to liabilities. So it's quite important that you look at the legal and regulatory framework that your entity operates in and what frameworks you have to ensure compliance is done. There is the issue about our reputation because there's a lot of bias and unethical AI outcomes which can damage the organization. So it's also important that you look at this risk at all levels. It could be that somebody could have created some content using AI and that will create issues for the organization over time. There is also operational risk. There are system errors. There is issue about cybersecurity. Data privacy issues are always there to look at. So it's important that our framework for governance or oversight look at how we can put mechanism in place to understand some of this risk and how to mitigate them. The last one is quite interesting. We are seeing a lot of reliance on AI, especially ChatGPT. So when you ask people to generate content, I work in academia, so people produce papers this day, and there's a lot of AI. So we are seeing that human judgment and that critical thinking is being reduced. So it's important as board members, we look at how we can rely on AI, but we are not fully dependent on it. And I keep on saying that as board members, we don't have AI as a board member. AI is not a board member. Yes, we can use AI, but it cannot replace the role that we have to play in ensuring accountability. So we cannot blame it on AI. One of the biggest risks we are seeing is the use of public AI. So public AI is Perplexity, ChatGPT. And we are seeing that some board members, for one reason or the other, if there's a document that they have to process, they throw all that content into AI. If you do that, the content that you put in AI is not available to the whole world because the AI works with learning. So if you have any sensitive data or anything which is private and it's confidential, it means that you have made that available. And I think everybody on this call, if you're a board member, you should have signed a document that says that you have to protect the data or the content that comes from the organization. So I tell people that put those information in the public AI systems that look, it's just like walking in Accra naked instead of wearing a jacket and a suit, because you're exposing the organization to that risk, because the AI is learning. And it means that when somebody else go in, they're able to find some information, not directly, to not come and see that this organization has said so, but through its learning ability, is able to determine that this information is coming from this organization. So it means that you're giving the competitive advantage to your competitor, largely because you're sharing information which usually you will not have shared with your competitor. So it's very important that fundamentally we have to ensure that we don't share content unintentionally because we're using public AI. So in that sense, we recommend that you should invest in private AI when you are dealing with private and confidential data. One of the biggest issue in AI in terms of risk, and I hope a lot of you may have experiences, that the AI system hallucinates, so they suffer for hallucination, which means that they generate content which is purely look accurate and look like it's genuine, but it's incorrect. It's made up. It's basically rubbish. So it means that when you use AI systems, you need to recognize that they do a lot of hallucination, that they may generate content on the face of it. If you don't go and spend time to investigate, you may end up using inaccurate data in decision making. So board have to ensure we have this rigorous oversight. And the test of this is what we call explainability. What is explainability? The output out of the AI, can you explain it? And if you cannot explain it, it means that it could have an issue. So in that sense, it's always recommended that we incorporate human judgment to mitigate some of this risk when it comes to dealing with the risk of AI. One key principle is to adopt. So we tell board members that adopt what we call human. So what does a human in the loop means? It means that anytime that we are interacting with AI, we should have the right human oversight, so that we cannot blame it on the AI. We should have systems that test the outputs. So the first practical thing to do, because the human in the loop is very important in our oversight obligation, is that we should have the right humans in the loop. And it starts with first as a board and goes down to the operational level and what have you. So we want to ask that question: do you have the humans in the loop? And if you don't have that, there may be an issue. And as, especially if you have a private AI, over time, the machine or the algorithm will learn, and to ensure that you have better interaction in terms of the output and the oversight. You need to balance the autonomy of the AI versus human intervention. So if the content is generated by the AI system, are we saying that we are doing 100% AI, or we're doing 50% AI and 50% human, or 90% human and 10% AI? So these are some of the things that we have to look at, and it can be documented practically in our governance, AI governance document. We need to constantly monitor AI deployment, because as I keep on saying, the technology is fast evolving. There's always a new use case. There's something new coming. So again, our governance framework should be dynamic, so that it includes scrutiny at the board level periodically to ensure that it's aligned. Because you could have put in something today, but tomorrow it may be outdated, or some new development may come into the space. So it's important, I keep on saying, that we have to ask the critical questions. And as board members, I think we have the experience and the capacity to ask those questions. And if you are not asking those questions, we are not enabling responsible AI within our organization. Again, we've seen a lot of boards who are big enough and they have the capability to have committees. So they have dedicated committees for AI, or they have a temporary groups within the board that's looking at this issue in the same way that you have HR or finance or IT. So we encourage boards which will have the capacity to start looking at creating some of this working unit within the bigger hospital. Yeah, I'm getting close to an end. I'm watching the time. I have 4 minutes more, so we can have more time for questions and interactions. Yes. So in the future, we have to realize that boards are now going to be using AI for decision making in terms of monitoring, compliance tracking, and the whole idea about supporting the work we do. And it's imperative that we take advantage of that opportunity. To do that, we need to have strong frameworks in play. If you don't have that, you not have the full benefits of the AI tools to support the business, to increase growth and profitability. As we are aware, directors play a central role in how we shape organization, and AI the same. So we want to look at our policies. We want to have transparency standards. When somebody uses AI, do we report it? And as I've mentioned a few minutes ago, you should be able to explain how you arrive at the decision, even if you use AI. And that is linked to accountability framework that are suggested. Now, we have to also figure out how to anticipate market shifts. And one of the biggest one that will be coming on our table is about human capital. How do you deal with AI and jobs? Are you going to use it to destroy some jobs? Are you going to use it to create some jobs? Are you going to use it to align? Are you going to train staff? So that issue is going to come. And how even training the board and also the operational level staff in terms of how they can take advantage of AI. So we also want to look at how we can practically identify growth opportunities. And thankfully, management can help us in this direction because they are there in terms of the day-to-day operation, and how more and more we can leverage automation. Now, I cannot complete this discussion without looking at return of investment when we look at AI. Unfortunately, a lot of these tools will not give you, some will give you some benefit today, but sometimes this is a long-term game. So it's important that you set realistic expectation for AI project outcome. And that's a very good beginning. So if you look at the project, what's realistic? Based on your available resources, based on what you want to achieve. And as usual, and at the strategic level, you can have the short term, the medium term, the long term, and you want to align those expectations vis-a-vis those timelines. It's important to develop metrics for measuring AI performance and its impact, because without that type of metrics or that type of measure, you cannot actually look at your return in terms of the investment that you made into AI. And one of the biggest issues that comes into play is about procurement. Unfortunately, a lot of mechanism we have for procurement when it comes to AI is different. So again, within your organization is the department responsible for, at the operational level, ready to do AI procurement. At the board level, do we have mechanism in place to do that effectively? At the end of the day, there are no universal answers, but the core is to ask the question, when you put in the investment, what is the return? And I keep on saying that some returns may not happen today. So you want to measure that according to the time frame. Budgeting is very important in the resource allocation, because some of this investment can be capital intensive. And unfortunately, if you don't do that today, you may not get the benefit tomorrow. So it's something that you have to look at how you can. I know that there's always issue about resources constraint, but you also want to look at how you can put investment in some of these areas. And to tell you, some organizations are putting investment in this area and they're getting their benefits. So we are not talking about some futuristic dream. It's happening today. And if you are not doing it, the question is that you want to do that urgently. If not, you'll be left behind. So in conclusion, boards have to act proactively when it comes to AI leadership. Leadership, I'm talking about the fact that we need to lead. So in your industry, if it's accounting, agriculture, manufacturing, all that, you want to ask yourself as an organization, are you providing leadership? And leadership is across. And when it comes to AI, what leadership role are you able to bring into the space? Are you giving good examples? So we have to remind ourselves that as directors, we are there to do or provide leadership. And in AI also, that obligation still rests on our shoulders. I think the Institute of Directors, I want to recommend one can set up a working group to advise us internally and also provide insight to lawmakers and government in terms of how, because we have expertise as an institute, so we should be able to align it with AI and make sure that we can provide guidance. There is an AI policy process which is now ongoing. I'm not sure if the institute was involved or not. And we want to look at, I always want to look at the bigger picture, because as a business or an entity, we operate in an ecosystem. So everything linked to that ecosystem, we should be interested in it. If you have to pass some law to make sure that it's to the benefit of our organization or industry, we have to aim for that. And as I keep on saying, we need to strengthen our AI capabilities, not only the literacy, but across board, how we can monitor, how we can evaluate, how we can ask questions, difficult questions, how we can understand what are the important problems facing the business or the entity, and how can we use AI to solve it. To recommend, you want to start big if you're starting your AI journey, not think big, but you want to start as usual with small achievable projects. Start with something that you can have better control with. And also, I recommend this because it can also test your investment returns. If it's achievable, you can come back and look, the pilot is successful, so we can scale up. So if you go with some big project and you don't have the control, remember, speed have to come with control. And if you start with pilot or small achievable projects, but again, at this level, we are supposed to think big. We are supposed to look at the top of the forest. So we have to keep that in mind. At the same time, looking at how to operationalize pilot, which can give us the evidence to scale up. And I'm suggesting that if your organization has not done that, there is some assessment called AI readiness assessment, which is always a solid start, which try to look at your organization as your whole, your place in the industry, and more importantly, how AI can help you in achieving your various vision or business objectives or goals. So on that note, I want to bring the discussion to a close. I think I've managed to do this in the 45 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hiabenu. And at this point, I think time is far gone, so we will give ourselves 5 minutes of question and answer time. So please, if you have any questions, you may put them in the chat box, or you may raise your hands and we'll call you to ask your question. There is a question, yes. The slides will not be shared, however, the recording of this presentation is going to be shared, so you can listen to it over and over again. So please, question time. If you have any questions, please raise your hand, or you may put them in the chat box to be addressed. So far, we've not received any questions yet.
I've raised my hand up.
Okay, so please, you may speak.
Yeah, my name is Patrick Anume. I'm on a board of a bank, and I myself am not well versed in AI, but I've read about what AI can do and what it can't do. I am scared about the kind of things AI can do. Therefore, I sit on the board and I wonder if I receive reports from my MD, who also receives the report from branches, And it happens that maybe a few branches used AI to generate maybe credit information and then present them at a board meeting. How would I be able to detect whether a report that is coming from my MD or from the branches to the MD for him to present to the board are not AI generated? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for this important question. So yes, I agree with you that it's quite an interesting journey that we are going with AI. So the first thing is that, yes, it's important to be scared so we can take in measures. So I want to suggest that we want to start with putting into place a policy about the use or the non-use of AI so that everybody within the organization is clear that we can use it, and these are the conditions or the maybe the areas that we can use AI for. As I keep on saying, it's important that the policy should indicate that anytime you use AI, you have to report it. You have to indicate that this document was generated or AI contributed to it. So that policy can help. More importantly, also, you want to be asking questions. And I believe that you may not have the ability on the face value to determine if it's AI or not. There are tools that you can deploy for that purpose. But I want to encourage you that if you start asking questions, some of these issues will start coming up. So the ability to ask some of these questions, one, did you use AI in generating this report, should be number one. If you did, what area did you use it? And on the face value, some of the output of the AI, you can actually see it if you look at in-depth that look, this numbers coming up based on your experience. And that's a wonderful thing about serving on boards, that you have some experience. You can see that on the face of it, it's not what plausible. But that said, I want to encourage that you have a policy, there's a discussion, there's a policy, and you want to ask questions. And once you do that, there are some organizations, if you are working within their environment, you can use some AI tools. So they have locked that on their server. And I think somebody asked a question, what is the private AI? So the private AI is the AI system that it's not available to the world at large. So that it means that you have ring-fenced it. It's a silo on an island, which is dedicated to your business. In that sense, when you use it, anybody else who is outside that organization will not have access to its content. So that's the private AI. And it works like the ChatGPT, but it's only available or dedicated to your organization. And if your organization is using that and you're able to prevent the use of public AI, then you have solved the issue about the content coming in.
Thank you very much. So there's a question that says, won't AI encourage plagiarism, especially in research and publications?
The answer is yes. So we are seeing a whole document being produced these days using what? AI. I mean, totally. And the challenge with some of those documents is that when they use the AI, there is no human interface. So the content can be very poor quality. And it's a big issue. So and a lot of universities or academia is struggling with how to deal with it. And in businesses also, you want to ensure that there are certain content which is copyright. So that's what I talk about some of the risk. You don't want a document that you present at a certain level to an investor, then realize that, look, somebody used an AI system and use content from a competitor or some other sources that they should not be using. And that will create a lot of issues for the entity. And as boards, we have to ensure that we maintain that oversight.
Okay, there's one more. How long on average does it take to begin to expect dividends from AI investments?
Again, it varies based on the projects you are doing. Some you can get returns as early as months. Some may take years. So the core is that you want to your measure should be incremental, because in AI, it's about data and also the ability for the system to learn. And it takes some time before it's able to learn. So look at it as you want to do automation. for automation to be, or you want to train a dog, let me use that. For the dog to maybe respect your command, it takes time. But once it does that, you have a tool that can serve you for a long time to come.
Okay, thank you. It says, and please, what course should I pursue to be AI oriented?
Again, is your question related to your membership of a board or operational level? So if it's board, I want to recommend that you look at courses that are tailor-made for your industry. So it means you want to talk to management and be talking to people like us to design courses for you that reflect that. So as much as possible, any course that you take should be linked to your industry, so I can have the maximum returns from it. There's a lot of online courses, and locally also we offer some courses as well. But the key question is that you want to ask yourself two questions. What do you want to do that user training for? And two, what is your capacity to learn? Remember that you cannot become an AI expert overnight. However, you can become knowledgeable in AI and have some skills and some knowledge in ensuring that if you're a board member, do your oversight work effectively. So it's important also to realize that this thing takes time. So your time commitment and the resources that you have is important in that direction.
Thank you. There was a hand up, Simon Danyari. If you still want to ask your question, please, you have the opportunity now, after which we will close the question and answer session. Simon, you have the floor.
Yeah, since the first question was being asked, so my question was being answered there, so that's why I put my hand down.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so someone was asking how to get the recording. Just as you got the link to register and join, the recording will be shared on all IoD member platforms, so please look out for it there. Thank you very much. At this time, we are 5 minutes past the scheduled time of closing, and I would invite Mr. Michael Justice Ashon, the Vice President of the Institute of Directors Ghana, to give us his closing remarks as we prepare to bring the session to a close.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Seyram. And also, let me thank Dr. Kwame Ahiabenu, MIOD, for these insightful points that he has made. As we conclude today's webinar on strategic AI leadership, I want to express my sincere gratitude to him and all participants who joined in making this webinar a success. Over the past 1 hour, we have explored how to move beyond scattered AI experiments and focusing instead on strategic integration that drives enterprise-wide transformation and value creation. We've heard compelling arguments for why leadership must take the helm, fostering collaboration and ethical frameworks to harness AI's full potential to ensure organizational success and societal benefit. The message is clear. Organizations must act now to capture competitive advantages. I urge each of you to carry the insights from today's webinar back to your teams and organizations, and let us all commit to building a strategic AI roadmap that aligns with our long-term vision and that leverages this powerful technology to solve the complex challenges to enhance human lives. Thank you for your insightful contributions, your questions, and for being part of this crucial conversation. Let's lead the way in shaping an intelligent future. Thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Ahiabenu, MIOD, and the rest of the membership. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashon. And all too soon, this afternoon's knowledge sharing session has come to a close, and we will entreat each one of you to look out for the next one, which will be published in due course. Thank you once again, and have a good afternoon.